This is Brass Tax. I'm Zaka Jacob. The Supreme Court today ordered Aam Aadmi Party councillor Kuldeep Kumar as the winner of the Chandigarh mayor election, which was mired in deep controversy. The returning officer, who controversially declared 8 votes as invalid, was castigated by the top court today. They've issued a show cause notice against the officer in question, Anil Masih, and they are most likely going to initiate criminal action against him. The BJP candidate was declared the winner of the Chandigarh mayor election and the AAP candidate resigned. Today, the Supreme Court restored the AAP candidate Kuldeep Kumar as the rightful winner of the poll. Has the blot on democracy and the democratic process been erased? And more importantly, has the top court restored faith in the election process itself?
उनके मेयर ने कल इस्तीफा दे दिया। ये जाहिर है कि उन्होंने गलत काम किया था।
सुप्रीम कोर्ट ने जिस तरीके से इस मामले में केंद्र सरकार को एक्सपोज किया है, मुझे नहीं लगता कि इतनी साफ गोई से किसी पार्टी की लीडरशिप कभी एक्सपोज सुप्रीम कोर्ट में हुई होगी।
First time the court has intervened in an election process which had been concluded and held that there was a serious irregularity in the election process conducted by the presiding officer.
सर कुछ कहेंगे आप?
All right, so let's take you through what the Supreme Court said in a significant order today. Number one, it said that the presiding officer unlawfully altered the result of the mayoral election. The presiding officer deliberately defaced as many as 8 ballots that were cast for Kuldeep Kumar. The presiding officer also expressed patent falsehood and must be held accountable therefore. The court has also directed the registrar of the Punjab and Haryana High Court to show cause Anil Masih, who is the presiding officer, on why steps should not be taken against him to remove him from his job. Also, the court said it is duty bound to ensure that the process of electoral democracy is not thwarted. It is therefore setting aside the entire election process, the election result. It will compound the destruction of democratic principles. Only infirmity has been found in the counting process. The petitioner is declared to be validly elected to the post of mayor. Kuldeep Kumar, who had resigned, has now been restored as mayor of the Chandigarh Municipal Corporation. Now, let me go across to our guests on what is, like I said, a significant verdict today by the Supreme Court. Alok Vats is a political analyst, backs the BJP. Ashutosh Srivastav is a lawyer, also backs the BJP. Siddharth Sharma is spokesperson of the Aam Aadmi Party. And Sumit Chander, lawyer, is also joining us. Alok Vats, let me start with you first. The court has said that this was a mockery of democracy, indicted the presiding officer, show-caused him and asked why criminal proceedings should not be launched against him. Do you believe that the court today has corrected a wrong in the democratic process?
Certainly, what the court has done today, it is highly laudable and very much appreciable that to save democracy, the court has taken suo motu the case against the presiding officer who was indulged and was caught on the camera in a nefarious activity. He should be fired, not suspended. He should be fired immediately because prima facie the case is proved that he has done wrong, and I believe that he has admitted it also. And there should be a thorough probe on this matter. All those You see, Anil Masih is not the only culprit. There must be a series of people who must have pressurized him or, lured him, whatever it is. So there should be a thorough probe to know who the real culprits behind this
Ashutosh
nefarious activity were.
Srivastava, the presiding officer was castigated by the top court today. But do you believe, as Alok Vats is saying, that he acted on his own, that he was a solitary operator, or that there were powerful forces backing him?
Absolutely. He has functioned on his own in his individual capacity. And even when we see the order, Supreme Court has not made any remark against any political party. It has remarked only against one particular person who was given certain duties, and he was supposed to discharge his duties with full responsibilities, but he has not done so. And accordingly, the court came to such a conclusion that the prosecution may also be initiated against him. And obviously, the disciplinary proceedings and all will be taken against him by the government.
So you are
also.
sure that this was one lone wolf acting on his own? He had no powerful backers. How could a presiding officer who is a bureaucrat so blatantly disregard the election process in a democracy like ours?
First of all, in all the elections, we know that the ballot is not the process to be followed. The EVMs are followed, and which issues were also raised earlier in the same Supreme Court, which denied many such PILs and said that the elections are being conducted in a proper manner by the EVMs. So, considering this particular aspect, that is why the Supreme Court said that the prosecution may be initiated under Section 340 of CRPC, and which says that there has to be some inquiry. So, an inquiry has to be set up, and accordingly, the report will come up after the inquiry, which will clarify the further stand of this particular person who has acted against the principles of law. And accordingly, I would also say that the Supreme Court, that's why has not made any remarks against anybody, any political party, except this particular officer who was in charge to conduct fair election in the
I want to ask Siddharth Sharma of the Aam Aadmi Party this. Ashutosh Srivastava's contention is, and if you were to peruse the order of the Supreme Court, it has not mentioned any political party by name, either BJP or AAP or any other political party for that matter. It has singularly kept its focus and its attacks on Anil Masih, the returning officer, and his conduct, which vitiated the entire democratic process.
Yeah, I think it's what has essentially happened is that Chandigarh has brought to open BJP's secret 9-point recipe to swindle people. Point number 1, try not to do an election. Then, if you are forced to do an election, appoint a BJP agent as an election officer rather than a neutral guy. Then invalidate all votes cast against BJP. Then declare BJP as the winner. Villainize anyone who complains about rigging. If still you keep on losing, indulge in horse trading. When caught, try to brazen it out. Essentially, this is what Supreme Court has said, not me. And going further, still if you lose badly like they do in BJP, change law to usurp power to yourself. Then go brazenly further ahead and stop others from doing work by jailing them. Essentially, BJP is turning Loktantra into some kind of Thoktantra.
No, but Siddharth Sharma, how do you say all this when the court has not said any of this?
All the things I've said is all the things. The first 6 points I said, first 7 points I said, the court has said. The only 2 points I said was what BJP does after that. Now, let me complete it. BJP is essentially shouting from the rooftop to assure its ecosystem that for them power is everything. Paradoxically, people vote for a government for service, not to give somebody power. So essentially, this is a quintessential emperor is naked moment for BJP, a moment when its Pradhanji has to either own up or reject this modus operandi of stealing elections. And what are its ramifications? The ramification is that with this team, India has proven that it is mathematically impossible for the BJP to now win 2024.
No, one second. One second. Siddharth Sharma, that's a gross extrapolation. I don't think one municipal corporation in one part of the country represents all of India. That's a complete extrapolation. But be that as it may, let me ask, there's no point you and me shouting at each other, Mr. Sharma, please calm down. Let me ask Sumit Chander, do you agree with this contention that, as bad as what happened in the Chandigarh mayor election, and the Supreme Court is 100% right to pull up the presiding officer and say he had no business to be defacing 8 validly cast ballots. As bad as what happened there, this extrapolation that Mr. Siddharth Sharma of Aam Aadmi Party has made, that India alliance is numerically can't be defeated, that it has numbers over and above what the BJP gets. Do you subscribe to that extrapolation?
See, there is an entire interpretation of the Supreme Court judgment going here and there. Let us be very clear. Supreme Court has only tried here to protect the democracy, which was here at risk. It was the moment it came to the notice of the Supreme Court that things are going wrong, Supreme Court has pulled it up. Now what the Supreme Court, the contention was that the ballot should be rendered as invalid and those kind of things.
Yes.
There are rules and laws. The Constitution provides for everything in line. You cannot go beyond the Constitution. The Supreme Court is very clear that in order to protect and uphold the Constitution, it has gone to Rule 73(2). And under that rules, the ballots can be rendered invalid only in 3 conditions. One, if the votes are cast for more than 2 candidates, if a mark is left identifying the voter, and if a mark is left on the ballot making it difficult to ascertain. So there are only 3 conditions given under the law that the ballots can be rendered invalid. Yeah. That is not the case here. Yes, so that is not the case here. That is why Supreme Court said that, listen, once the election has taken place, what now remains to be seen is who has the majority, and the majority party, after the recounting was done, was found to be a certain political party, and accordingly,
but could the court not have ordered a re-election and a recount instead of saying that we are setting aside the result declared by the returning officer? We are declaring that these 8 votes were valid votes voted in favor of the AAP candidate. Could it not have set aside that declaration and said have a re-election and a recount?
No, like I said, to set aside the entire validity and declare the ballots as invalid for a re-election, there are only 3 conditions which were not fulfilled in this case.
Okay.
So that is why re-election, Supreme Court says there is no question of going back to re-elections. What needs to be focused on is recounting, which has been done. A majority has been found by an independent person which has counted, and accordingly
the contention of Sumit Chander, the Aam Aadmi Party, is also that this is a blow to the BJP. BJP talks about India being mother of democracy, but look at the process being vitiated in the Chandigarh mayor polls, and that also to take what Mr. Sharma is saying, that this is an example that India alliance, if it came together and worked well, numerically it can beat the BJP. Please respond to that.
Well, it was Punjab, where already BJP is on a not very formidable wicket. But had it been in some other states, the story would not have been the same. Let me tell you one thing. They are trying to accuse BJP of this whole episode, but even the court has not taken the name of BJP or any political party for that matter. People are conceiving that it was the BJP who orchestrated or who architected the whole thing from behind the scene. But there is no foolproof plan to put the finger on BJP. So BJP is not at all in the scene, but yes, let there be a thorough probe. Then things will come out. Who are the culprits behind it? Who instigated Anil Masih? But nowhere the court nor any particular man or anybody has said that the BJP was involved in it.
But what about the contention made by Sumit Chander, Mr. Vats, that the court had no option but to validate these 8 votes voted in favor of the Aam Aadmi Party candidate? It could not have ordered for a re-election or a recount. Because in the meanwhile, 3 of the AAP councillors who had won on an AAP ticket, they have joined the BJP just yesterday.
Let me tell you one thing, Jacob. This switching over sides by people, it has become the order of the day. And it has been happening since last many years. Now, principal politics is set aside. Who will join whom, who will marry whom, who will divorce whom, when nobody, even political pundits, will not be able to predict anything about it. So that is the order of the day and taken like that. They must have deemed fit to go along with BJPs on their switch sides. Is it something new? It is happening everywhere.
So should
I
there
don't
should there
blame
be rules then, Ashutosh Srivastava? We know there is the anti-defection law, but clearly anti-defection law did not prevent change of MLAs' positions when it came to Maharashtra. Not once but twice over. First with the Shiv Sena and then subsequently with the Ajit Pawar faction of the NCP. Should there be laws in this country, electoral laws, amendment to the Representation of People's Act, that if a person is elected on a particular party symbol, then if he or she chooses to leave that party and go to another party, then automatically their membership gets cancelled?
The principle behind it is there in the constitution, which says that a person who is having the mandate of the people, whom he is representing. So the constitution has given such kind of a provision by which even if he changes the party, that continues, because it is said that he is being represented by the people, by certain voters who has voted him as an individual.
No, but
Maybe
the voters
not as
would have
a
also
political-
backed for the political party that he or she represented and what that party stands
See-
for. Having won
See,
on that party's ticket and that party's ideology, then to switch sides is also at some level making a mockery of the people's mandate.
The elections are, regular in nature. It is not a permanent thing. So that keeps on going. Now, the person or the, elected person who has won the votes of the people, he decides how he can represent the people in a better way. So that mandate has been given by the constitution. So if any law has to amend, then it will be difficult, because the entire constitutional system is required to change in this particular situation. So it will not be that easy.
Mr. Siddharth Sharma, on the one hand, you haven't answered why the court has not specifically named any political party, even as it castigated the presiding officer, but leave that as it is. I also want to seek your explanation on why 3 of your councillors who were elected as Aadmi party councillors have left your party and joined the BJP, and there's no whimper about it.
Yeah, fair question, and I'll answer that. But before that, to the wise viewers of CNN News 18, let them understand, let them see that highlighted today, that today being a landmark judgment day, BJP spokespersons are not coming on national television. This is a clear giveaway that for BJP, nation comes second, the BJP comes first. Now, as far as the law is concerned, I would have liked if the lawyers in our midst would have highlighted this, and this is a very important thing that I'm saying, that the legislature in India thinks that it can frame any biased law and then expect the judiciary to fall in line. But there is an Article 142. Today's judgment of the Supreme Court has come under the purview of Article 142, which says that where the law is bad, the Supreme Court can dispense complete justice. So that exactly has been done. And now, as far as the Aam Aadmi Party's 3 councillors are concerned, we know, I've said this earlier, that when BJP doesn't complete its numbers, it goes for horse trading, and this is not what I said, this is the Supreme Court has said. You can do horse trading in 2 ways. You can give some green grass to the horse, or you can rob someone's horse from its stable. So what has happened, we don't know. But right now, what the Supreme Court has said is that it has gone to status quo ante, because BJP always plays that if something has gone wrong, let us replay the match. Now, between that old match and the replayed match, they changed the status quo. And this is the first time that the Supreme Court has invoked Article 142 and said that no, it will go back to status quo ante. And that status quo ante, Article 142 invocation, is the most critical aspect as of today. I thought that the lawyers in our midst, 2 people would have highlighted this. They didn't, so that's why I highlighted.
Mr. Srivastava, please respond to that. Like I've been asking Sumit Chander and also to Mr. Sharma. The court could have said, let's cancel the election, let's have a re-vote and a re-election and a re-vote, but that's not what the court did.
Whatever the court, after looking at the arguments of both the sides and documents in place, it came to a conclusion that, and as my learned friend also mentioned, the 3 conditions by which only the re-election can take place as per the law. But since none of the conditions were, matching this particular situation, and hence the Supreme Court came to a conclusion that instead of going for re-election, it will be wiser in the interest of justice that the same election can be continued and the 8 ballots can be counted accordingly, and then the results can be announced. And accordingly, the Supreme Court passed the order. Now the Article 142, what my friend just now said, gives power directly to the Supreme Court to decide certain matters. So obviously, the Supreme Court, not only in this matter, in many such cases which are of national importance or which is in the interest of people at large, can take the matter in itself and can decide, and accordingly it decided the issue. So this is how it is.
So Sumit Chander, if as Mr. Sharma says that this shows that the India alliance is alive and well, then why is the alliance splitting in Bengal? Why is the alliance splitting in Bihar? Even in Delhi and Punjab, where Aam Aadmi Party is ruling, there is no consensus, no agreement. In fact, both Mr. Maan and Mr. Kejriwal have said that they will fight alone. I'll ask this to Mr. Sharma also, but first Sumit Chander.
I'm not a political analyst, but what I can say is wherever the democracy it is at stake, as in this case, Supreme Court will intervene. So what we need to see is at this stage, if the Supreme Court has intervened and it has given logical reasoning for that. So there is no point today going about how politically it is affected, good, bad, ugly. In either case, irrespective of which government, I think one thing that is clear is that under no circumstances can the very democracy be put at stake by any party whatsoever. That is what the Supreme Court
Okay, Mr. Sharma.
I think Arvind Kejriwal, the Delhi Chief Minister, has made it clear. You can defeat BJP with good strategy. When we say good strategy, it does not mean fighting together. It means that sitting together and forming a very good strategy. And that is a very good strategy in Punjab, that we fight differently and win more seats. That is what Arvind Kejriwal was saying. So this is a game. It is a chess game. Please understand, in politics as well as sports, they are not blood sports where you draw blood. You do not, in politics and sports, they are not, your opposition is not an enemy to kill. It is a play, it is a game where you don't draw blood, but you defeat them fair and square. So that is what
but Mr. Sharma, then in the chessboard of Bengal, in the chessboard of Punjab, in the chessboard of Delhi, chessboard of UP today, why is India Alliance not fighting together?
Isn't it possible that India Alliance is trying to give mixed signals and keeping BJP confused by all this? Isn't it possible?
Sir, पहले आप confused ना लगे, उसके बाद किसी और को confuse करने की बात।
सर, हम आज जीत के हमने फर्स्ट विकेट
वो तो एक म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में है ना।
हाँ, तो म्युनिसिपल कॉर्पोरेशन में है।
आप ये बताइए कि बंगाल, बिहार, उत्तर प्रदेश, पंजाब, दिल्ली, यहाँ पे क्या आप कंफ्यूज हो कि आप बीजेपी को कंफ्यूज करना चाहते हैं?
चंडीगढ़
नहीं, सिद्धार्थ जी, वाई इन बंगाल, बिहार, यूपी, पंजाब, दिल्ली, आप खुद कंफ्यूज हो या आप बीजेपी को कंफ्यूज करना चाह रहे हैं? Because it seems like आप खुद कंफ्यूज हैं।
नहीं सर, वो इसीलिए तो गलतफहमी में रखना पड़ता है। अरविंद केजरीवाल जी ने आज बताया कि स्ट्रेटेजाइज करके हराना पड़ता है और बहुत अच्छी स्ट्रेटेजी है। पहला विकेट बीजेपी का चंडीगढ़ में गिर गया।
ठीक है, तो आलोक वत्स, ये तो बिल्कुल वो शाहरुख खान वाला डायलॉग हो गया, हार के जीतने वाले को कहते हैं बाजीगर। दिस इज द इंडिया अलायंस स्ट्रेटेजी।
Let me tell you one thing, Mr. Jacob. It was just a matter of fluke that they made it. They are not at all in hand in glove with each other. It was in a pond that they were able to, survive. But when it comes to sea, they are at sea with each other. Categorically, the Bhagwat Man, the CM of Punjab, and even Kejriwal has said that we are going to fight it alone in Punjab.
Yeah.
And also in Delhi. So, where is this strategy going to fall then? When you are going to fight alone, it's going to be your own battle. So where does this strategic plan fit into? All this is beating about the bush. India alliance is falling apart day by day, and before the 2024 election, they will be totally scattered. And BJP under Narendra Modi, who is gunning to cross 400 seats, will almost touch that mark. The mood of the nation is different.
Okay.
A lot of quality works that have been delivered to the Aam Aadmi by the Modi government, and people have the confidence that he is the man who can lead.
Okay. We'll see how that plays out. Of course, we have a couple of months between now and the Lok Sabha election. It's a story that we'll be very, very closely tracking here on CNN News 18. In the meanwhile, thank you very much to all our guests who joined us with their thoughts and perspective. A significant ruling today from the Supreme Court on the Chandigarh mayor elections. But let's now move on to another equally pressing story, and this is coming from the southern part of the country. The Karnataka state government made an unusual decision today. The Ministry of Forests in Karnataka has granted approval of a compensation package of 15 lakh rupees to the family of a man in Kerala who tragically was killed by an elephant from Karnataka following advice from Rahul Gandhi. This happened in Rahul Gandhi's Lok Sabha constituency of Wayanad over the weekend. In fact, Rahul Gandhi stopped his yatra midway, went to Wayanad, was with the family of the said gentleman who was killed by this wild tusker before flying back to Uttar Pradesh. The BJP in Karnataka has condemned the state government's move, alleging that misappropriation of state funds is happening just to please Rahul Gandhi. They have deemed this disgraceful. It is noteworthy that 3 individuals lost their lives to the elephant attacks in Wayanad just in the last few days. Rahul Gandhi visited the families of the victims yesterday, and he subsequently advised the Karnataka government to provide compensation. Meanwhile, the JDS, which is an alliance partner of the BJP, has also accused the state government of liberally spending taxpayers' money at a time when the Karnataka government is financially reeling and finding it difficult to meet the guarantees that it had promised to the electorate just before the election in May last year.
Karnataka state government has released 15 lakhs to a person from Wayanad. Reason is, in an elephant stampede incident, when a person from Wayanad has been died, Karnataka government has released 15 lakhs. Why? Because Rahul Gandhi has demanded this. So just because Rahul Gandhi has demanded Karnataka government to release money, our Chief Minister Siddaramaiah has released 15 lakh rupees to a person who has died due to the elephant stampede in Kerala, that too in Wayanad area. So this is a total misuse of state funds.
Yes, their leader from Delhi, Rahul Gandhi, on his request or on his direction, this government liberally they have given the compensation. How this government behaving, everybody can understand. By liberally giving 15 lakh rupees, they have shown that they have given the message. Our government treasury is very strong. They have given the message. By making one side 1 lakh crore loan this year, then 27,000 crore deficit budget. Liberally they are giving the money of Kannadigas.
See, releasing compensation amount to a deceased person trampled by the elephant from the Karnataka state is a humanitarian act. It is not about whether Mr. Rahul Gandhi recommended for the compensation to be paid or not. It is on humanitarian grounds. Whoever might have recommended. On humanitarian grounds, we have released compensation, a meager compensation, 15 lakhs. So BJP, time and again, the way they are behaving, they have left humanity. There is no connection between humanity and BJP. Whether it is communal polarization, targeting of minorities.
All right, I want to go across to Ritu, my colleague. What is the defense from the Karnataka state government authorities? Because clearly, this accident happened in Kerala. The victim of this elephant attack happens to be from Kerala. The BJP says it's on advice from Rahul Gandhi, but we don't have any evidence to that effect. But there has to be a solid justification for why a state which says it's financially in the doldrums, it's not able to meet its guarantees, to keep its guarantees, why would it award 15 lakhs compensation for an accident that happened in another state?
Well, exactly. You see, as you rightly mentioned, that how the Karnataka government announcing the compensation of rupees 15 lakh to the family of a person from Wayanad in Kerala who died following an attack by an elephant has now triggered a controversy in the Karnataka, with BJP mainly arguing that why is that the Karnataka tax fund being misused that way? And top of that, why is that this particular appeasement towards the Rahul Gandhi is going on while the state is suffering from a drought situation, while the government is writing letters continuously to the central government asking for almost rupees 15,000 crores to be released as part of NDRF for the drought situation in the Karnataka. But this government has funds for this compensation. Probably this is for the first time wherein the Karnataka is witnessing something like this from the Congress government. That way, that's the main argument that the BJP, in fact, is having at this point in time. But you see, earlier in the day, when CNN News18 spoke to the minister, the Karnataka Forest Minister, he in fact tried to give out his rational way, saying that one, there are a lot of party leaders in the states. Whenever there are governments functioning like this, many party leaders keep on writing letters requesting them for the compensation whenever there is some sort of a loss of life. And in the same manner that this government had also received a letter, and that's how the government has responded to it. So that's the kind of...
Ritu, give me a moment. Ashok Gowda of the BJP is now joining us on the phone line. Mr. Khandre, who is the forest minister today, told reporters that the reason why Karnataka state government was giving this compensation was because this elephant, this tusker, had the tag of the Karnataka State Forest Department. It had strayed from Karnataka into Kerala, where it killed this man, and that's why the Karnataka state government was offering compensation. Mr. Gowda.
See, in the past, probably in a few months back, let's go back to August. There is in Karnataka in August and in January, there are 5 people who have been stampeded by the elephant in Karnataka who are Kannadigas himself. And yesterday night, that is on 19th night, there is 2 people, Kannadigas, who has been stampeded near the border of Tamil Nadu, that is near my village, that is Gumlapura. That is this thing. And as well as Vainadu, January 31st, there is one Mr. Lakshmana who died because of the elephant stampede. As well as in Idiki, there are 3 people who are dead in January. So, for these people, as well as this Anjis Joseph, whom the compensation is paid, Kerala government has already paid 10 lakh. Whereas for the Kannadigas who were killed because of the elephant, this thing, including Vasant Kumar, in Beluru was killed because of the elephant, this thing.
Okay.
Not even a single rupee has been paid. Not even a single rupee has been paid, including Kanakapura, 2 people, Madikeri, 2 people had died. So all these things has happened. Why is Congress government, on the instruction of Rahul Gandhi, who is a Wayanad MP, releasing our tax money? That is
Sanket Yanagi of the Congress is also joining us. Sanket Yanagi, please respond. Mr. Ashok Gowda of the BJP saying at least 5 Kannadigas, people of Karnataka, residents of Karnataka, have died in such natural man versus wildlife encounters, and yet the state government has not compensated them. Why are you compensating somebody who died in Kerala?
First of all, BJP is suffering from existential crisis in Karnataka. They are searching for the stone in the curd, number 1. Number 2, any stampede of this nature is to be assessed and ascertained on the basis of case-to-case basis, number 2. And number 3, the BJP unnecessarily trying to hold Karnataka government responsible for the animal stampede, which is not correct at any point of time. And in a particular case where the compensation has been awarded according to the BJP, it is based on a particular incident and the report available in a particular incident.
No, but what about jurisdiction? In this case, Karnataka does not have jurisdiction, either for the victim who died, who's not a resident of your state, nor for where it actually happened. It was beyond the borders of Karnataka. Why are you then compensating such a person?
Just because BJP says that it is outside the border, or just because BJP says that he is no way connected to Karnataka, just because BJP says that
compensation
it is Rahul Gandhi.
Have you paid the compensation to people who have been killed in Karnataka?
1 minute, please. Let me complete. So just because BJP makes so much of allegations, everything of the BJP cannot be believed. And now in a present scenario, anything of BJP cannot be believed. So for that reason, BJP can say anything and everything for the purpose of voting. for the purpose of elections, especially
Okay.
when the elections are nearing.
We-
They can take out even RAM in elections.
We'll
So
leave it
that's
at that.
how-
Thank you very much, Sanket Yanagi and Ashok Gowda for joining us. We'll see how this story plays out politically in Karnataka. It is turning out to be a big talking point there, and that too ahead of elections. Now, a deep dive into the Israel-Hamas conflict, where it seems that the IDF, and this is according to a Reuters report that was out yesterday, the Israeli Defense Forces are likely or in a position to wrap up its full-scale on-ground military operation anywhere between 6 to 8 weeks. There is pressure from the United States over the mounting civilian death toll in Gaza, while the humanitarian crisis continues with many who are still trapped in the war zone. Israel has rejected a Hamas peace overture, calling it ludicrous. It wants to stick to its vow, something that Netanyahu, the Israeli Prime Minister, has repeated time and again, that this war will end with the complete destruction of Hamas. Separately, there is a likely UN vote in the United Nations Security Council that could come up later tonight, which, if it passes, and it's still a big if it passes, this will be the first time that the United States too has backed a resolution at the UN Security Council or at the UNGA for that matter, which would have called upon Israel for a ceasefire as quickly as is possible. Let me first get down to the deep dive explainer as to why the Israeli forces now feel confident that they can wrap up their on-ground operations in the next 2 months. And thereafter, we'll also speak to two guests on this potential UNSC vote. Israel expects to wrap up its full-scale military operations in Gaza in another 2 months or so. Reuters reported, quoting 4 unnamed officials, 2 of them from Israel, and 2 regional officials who were involved in negotiations between Israel and Hamas. Military chiefs believe that they can significantly damage Hamas's remaining capabilities in that time period between the next 6 to 8 weeks. After the next 2 months of active operation, officials are hoping to pave the way to shift to a more lower intensity phase of this war. It will only involve targeted airstrikes and special forces operations. There will be no more ground operations, the kind of which we have seen from the 8th of October. There is little chance that Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's government will heed to the international criticism to call off a planned ground assault on Rafah. Rafah is the last bastion of Hamas control, and Israel believes that there are battalions in Rafah which Israel wants to dismantle if it has to achieve its goal in this war. And Netanyahu has said this multiple times in the last few weeks, that his stated objective in this war is the complete destruction of Hamas. He's also gone on to say that until Hamas is destroyed in Rafah, this war will not end. Defense Minister Yoav Gallant said last week that Israeli Defense Forces, the IDF, were planning operations in Rafah to target Hamas fighters, command centers, as well as tunnels that are located in the southern city. But the minister gave no timeline for when the Rafah campaign would begin or even end. He stressed that extraordinary measures were being taken to avoid civilian casualties. There were 24 regional battalions in Gaza, and Yoav Gallant, the defense minister, claimed that 18 of them have been dismantled. He said this at a news media briefing on Friday. Now he says Rafah is the next Hamas center of gravity. Trapped between Israel and Hamas are more than 1 million Palestinian civilians who are crammed into Rafah on the southern border with Egypt. In the past week of hectic diplomatic tensions between Washington and Tel Aviv, US President Joe Biden telephoned Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu at least twice. He warned him against launching a military operation in Rafah without a credible plan to ensure the safety of civilians. Netanyahu himself has said that civilians will be allowed to leave the battle zone before the offensive on Rafah begins. But he did not elaborate where they will be taken to. Neither has the IDF explained in detail how it expects to move more than 1 million people within the ruins of the enclave. According to one Israeli security source and an international aid official, both of whom spoke to Reuters, Gazans could be screened to weed out any potential Hamas fighters before all of them are sent northwards. A separate Israeli source said that Israel could also build a new floating jetty just north of Rafah to enable international aid as well as medical ships to arrive by sea. An Israeli defense official said that Palestinians will not be allowed to return to the north en masse. There might be some kind of temporary accommodation, some kind of tent city, if you will, on the outskirts of Rafah. It wouldn't be safe or wise to move a large swathe of the population into a northern zone which has no electricity, no running water, and most importantly, which has not been fully cleared of unexplored landmines. Washington is skeptical that Israel has made sufficient preparations for a secure civilian evacuation. Biden said on Friday he did not expect a massive Israeli ground invasion to happen in Rafah anytime soon. Hamas triggered the conflict on the 7th of October last year when its terrorists burst out of the Gaza Strip into southern Israel. The attacks killed over 1,200 Israeli citizens, and Hamas also seized more than 240 hostages. The surprise attack prompted a massive retaliatory bombardment and ground invasion by Israel that has killed more than 28,000 Palestinians. Much of Gaza has been reduced to rubble. Fighting continues in the southern city of Khan Yunis. Much of the fighting is now concentrated in the south of Gaza, while combing and clearing ground operations are happening in the north. Egypt has sealed off its border to the Gaza Strip. Cairo has framed its opposition to the displacement of Palestinians from Gaza as part of a wider Arab rejection of the repeat of any Nakba. The Nakba happened back in 1948 when 700,000 Palestinians fled from their homes, and that accompanied the creation of the Jewish state of Israel. No Arab country wants a repeat of the Nakba of 1948. There were even unconfirmed reports earlier last week that Egypt was building a wall at the southern border with Rafah in a bid to dissuade Gazans from fleeing into Egypt. This month, after weeks of negotiations, Hamas proposed a ceasefire of 4.5 months, during which it said it would free all Israeli hostages. In return, Israel would have to withdraw its troops from Gaza, and an agreement would also be reached on how to end the war. Netanyahu rejected that offer as delusional. A new round of talks involving America, Egypt, Israel, and Qatar on a truce ended without any kind of breakthrough in Cairo last week. Senior American officials see that securing a deal to release the remaining hostages in exchange for an extended ceasefire in the conflict, according to them, is the best path to a reconciliation. Yet, there are very big concerns that such a deal may not materialize in the coming weeks, not in the least because Netanyahu doesn't seem keen. The concern among American and European officials is this, that the Israel war will continue well into the Muslim holy month of Ramadan, which begins in March and concludes in April. If that were to happen, it could intensify global criticism of Israel's campaign. Which is why Israeli military leaders too are keen to wrap up the active on-ground operations, the first phase of this war, before the start of Ramadan in early March. Whether or not that will happen, that is something that Israeli officials are not willing to hazard a guess just yet. But once the war concludes, once the active ground operations conclude in the next 2 months, as some officials hope it would, any attempt to form a post-war government in Gaza will only succeed if it has some role for Hamas in it. Israel has vowed to wipe out Hamas entirely, And the group's leader in Gaza, Yahya Sinwar, has said that he would rather fight to death than surrender or go into exile. Israel also remains opposed to any deal involving a permanent ceasefire or a separate Palestinian state, despite mountain loads of US and international pressure. There's also huge outcry over the disproportionate civilian suffering in Israel's response to what happened on the 7th of October. Since October, US Secretary of State Antony Blinken has made 5 visits to the region. Last month, the State Department said that Washington was actively pursuing the establishment of an independent Palestinian state. In response, over the weekend, the Israeli cabinet passed a token resolution declaring that any unilateral creation of a Palestinian state would be deemed illegal as per international law. But it boils down to one thing and one thing only: whether Netanyahu feels comfortable to end this war, at least the active operations part of this ground war, in the next 2 months and declare some sort of victory. That victory can only be declared if he can show to the Israeli people, more than to the international community, that he has eliminated the known leadership of Hamas. Until that happens, it is difficult to hazard a guess on how long this war will continue. All right, so let's try and make sense of both of these stories. One, the Reuters story about Israel possibly halting its active ground operations in 6 to 8 weeks, and the other, a more important one, the vote that is likely to come up at the United Nations Security Council later tonight. Joining me now, India Naftali is a senior journalist based in Israel. She's with the I-24 News Network, and we'll also be joined by Arsen Ostrovsky in just some time. He's an attorney and CEO at the International Legal Forum. India Naftali, let me start with you. First, about the Reuters story saying that the last remaining stronghold of Hamas, which has been described by various Israeli leaders as the last center of gravity, once that operation in Rafah concludes, then the Israeli military could look at actively concluding its on-ground operations in another 6 to 8 weeks. What are you hearing about this Reuters report?
You're absolutely right. We are beginning to see the beginning of the end. However, this doesn't mean it will be the end of the war. Now, we are talking about, there's a lot of rumors of a ceasefire deal going on. There's also this resolution that the U.S. is trying to push, as well as the negotiations going on between Qatar, Hamas, and Israel. But right now, after operations end in Gaza, we are looking at Israel beginning to ramp things up in the north near the border of Lebanon.
I do want you to elaborate on the various pieces that are at play here. One, you mentioned this resolution that's likely to come up at the United Nations Security Council. Why has the United States, which in the past has twice voted against such resolutions and backed Israel, are you seeing a change of tone and tenor from the Biden administration?
Absolutely. I mean, all roads are leading to the 2024 election. I mean, this is the year of elections around the world. I believe over 30 of the world's biggest countries will be having elections this year. And of course, the United States is one of them. Now, as this war fatigue is going on in the United States, on both sides, from the Republican side and the Democrat side, as an American, I've seen the tone sort of shift. And we're seeing that in the Biden administration pushing Israel to kind of wrap things up in Gaza because of the effect of Biden voters and how they feel about the ongoing war in Israel, which is against.
I do want to, it might sound like jumping the gun, but if this indeed goes through and the UNSC does vote in favor of this US-moved resolution, what kind of pressure would that put on the Netanyahu government?
Well, because the United States is the biggest supplier of armed weapons and international support towards Israel, Israel is having to bend to the wills and wishes of the United States, despite not wanting to end this war until A, all of Hamas leadership is eliminated, and B, until the hostages are returned. So we are going to see Netanyahu having to hear and listen to the will of the United States, but we are going to see him try to push back against that, as we've been seeing him push back against these ceasefire deals until there are better terms for Israel. For example, the last ceasefire deal negotiation was rejected because of the ratio of terrorists to hostages switching and return ratio.
So where is that negotiation process? I know till last week it was on, and then Prime Minister Netanyahu rejected it, saying that Hamas's offer was quote-unquote ludicrous. Are those efforts stalled right now? Are mediators like Egypt, Qatar, even the United States still engaged in those conversations, or is it stalled for the time being?
Absolutely. Things are stalled right now. Things are up in the air. But right now, the hot topic is about the operation in Rafah. And I want to say, the world has been telling Israel you cannot carry out an operation in Rafah. However, just 2 weeks ago, when Israeli special forces entered into Rafah, we saw how they rescued 2 hostages and returned them safely to their families. And that is a huge deal.
Arsen Ostrovsky is also now joining us. Arsen, we were talking about this imminent operation in Rafah, and clearly there is international pressure on Israel. We've heard this from the Biden administration. We've heard this from, folks in the UK, in Germany, that they are concerned about potential damage to civilian life and civilian property when you're going in for such a massive ground operation in Rafah. Walk us through what you're hearing as to whether there could be any caveats or, adherence to international laws and obligations that Israel has as a responsible member of the Committee of Nations before it goes in for this Rafah operation.
Well, Israel has throughout this operation been going above and beyond their obligations under international law to an extent that no army in modern history has done so with respect, and this is not just with respect to the possible operation in Rafah, but through other operations until now as well. They have given advance notice, dropped over 1 million leaflets, made phone calls. They have given weeks notice to various communities, sites, hospital areas, and civilian places to evacuate. No other army in the world does that. Israel is literally telegraphing in advance to Hamas terrorists where it is going and when, and it's doing so to the possible detriment and risk to its own soldiers. At the end of the day, Israel, like India, like any sovereign nation, can, must, and will do whatever action deemed necessary in order to protect its citizens, to rescue its hostages, and to dismantle the terrorist organization Hamas.
I do want to also ask you about where the negotiations are as of now, and it also comes in the backdrop of this potential resolution moved in the UN Security Council, which I believe the United States is pushing for, in which A, they could call for a ceasefire, B, the release of hostages, and C, of course, humanitarian aid into Gaza. If the US pushes it through successfully, how may that change the dynamics of this war, Arsen?
So with respect to the US, I think we need to also clarify, because there's been a lot of, I believe, perhaps some misinformation regarding their plans or intentions. The US has spoken about putting forward a possible resolution referencing I think the exact terminology was a humanitarian pause, if I'm not mistaken. This is in contrast to what Algeria is seeking to do, which is an entirely one-sided resolution that does not mention Hamas. I don't believe it mentions the hostages, and sole purpose is to draw out a US veto. But the US has also clarified that whilst this is something that it seeks, whilst it does consider there is some merit in proposing a resolution of its own that may be perhaps more balanced, it is not doing so at this point. And I think that's important to note. It is waiting to see how the negotiations continue with Egypt, with Qatar, with other parties. So whilst the US has expressed some intentions to put forward a resolution of its own, it is not doing so at this point in time.
All right, Arsen Ostrovsky and India Naftali, thank you very much for joining us with your thoughts and perspective.